Hello and welcome to Canada Brew with me, Graham Hughes, broadcasting live from sunny Toronto. I hope you're all well this morning. It is Monday the 8th of September 2025. Well done on making it this far. And I just want to shout out to people in the chat. Sorry I was a bit late getting started there. It's one of them where I've got to set up each day. So you're about to go and then you realise, oh, hang on, my microphone's not picking up, and then you realise something else is happening. And before you know it, 10 minutes has passed, but I'm here now, and that's what's important, I like to believe. Martin Harrow has just gone to Tesco, which is cool, or Graham Haller, is in the chat there. We've also got Andrew Ray, we've got Trip, we've got El Chaos. We have, who else? That's it, I think. Hello, everybody. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat here, all you need to do is hit the lovely subscribe button. Hit subscribe, and you will become subscribed to the chat. Like I said, I'm Graham Hughes. Welcome to Canada Brew on Politics Social. Put my arm there so you can actually see that it says Politics Social. Otherwise, I should put a shadow on that. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the bullshit on both sides of the Atlantic. In the last few days, we've had this dickhead in Florida getting rid of all vaccine mandates in Florida schools and saying that he wants to roll this out across the country. And we've had the reform dickheads having their dickhead conference when all the dickheads get together and they say we love our lives as dickheads because being a dickhead's cool, apparently, these days. And they had this guy stand up and he basically said that, let me get this right. The COVID vaccine caused the royals to get cancer. That's what he said. Now, I think that if I made that a video name on this channel, I'll probably get told off or maybe banned or something. But, for refuck, it's all, grist to the mill, or whatever they call it. Do you like my mug? This is the 50th anniversary this year at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is very cool. Before we go on to talk about news and all that bollocks, we can talk about we'll talk about the films that I saw over the weekend. So since I've been here, I've seen the John Candy documentary, I Like Me. Give that a good 3.5 out of 5. It's okay. I saw a movie called Maddie's Secret, which was awful. 1 out of 5, hated it. Then I saw a movie called Knives Out. Knives Out Part 3. The third part of the Knives Out series, Wake Up Dead Man, 5 out of 5, no notes. And last night, I watched a movie called The Christophers with Serena McKellen and Michaela Cole, and it was really good. I've seen this story a few times before. It's about like a grumpy old man, played by Serena McKellen, and then a younger protege comes along, and at the start they really don't get on, but by the end of the movie they're good friends, and then when Serena McKellen is no longer with us, they get very upset. If anyone's seen the movie Got Some Monsters from the 90s of Brendan Fraser, and who played the old man in that film? Oh yeah, Serena McKellen. You'll recognise the kind of setup for the story, but it was really good. And although it did have James Corden in it, he did play a dickhead who Serena McKellen hated, or his character hated in the film. So great. I really enjoyed it. Definitely one to watch on the couch under the blanket on a winter's evening. Very good. The Christophers with Serena McKellen, who couldn't be with us yesterday. He was hoping to actually make it over here, but his doctors say that he's not allowed to fly, which isn't great. He's also filming, he's just wrapping up on the new Avengers movie that he's in, playing Magneto again for the zillionth time. Trip, What's Up, also known as Was Up, is a commercial campaign from Budweiser. The first spot aired on the Monday Night Football on December the 20th, 1999. Yeah, there was a bad joke, wasn't there, about, what did Sushi A say to Sushi B? Wasabi. Yeah. Anyway, was the John Candy film good? Yeah, it was Oliver. But if you're hoping to get sort of like really beneath the skin of John Candy, this was more like a love letter written by his friends and the people who knew him and loved him about just how awesome he was. And I feel like it glossed over a few things that happened in John Candy's life. Not to say that he was a villain, I don't think he was, but there were a few decisions that he made that perhaps he shouldn't have. And yeah, he was in a lot of bad films. They do mention that at the end. They say he's been in more turkey than stuffing, or more turkeys than Paxo stuffing, or something like that. He was in like over 100 films. You know, he was in an insane number of films over just a 14-year period of appearing in Hollywood movies. But something that came across in the documentary is that he was very much a people pleaser. And there's a line in it where someone says Hollywood's not a place for people pleasers. Because if you meet someone, you like them, and they say, "Oh, can you be in this film?" And he'll turn up and do his bit in the film. So they get to put John Candy's name down in the credits on the posters. But the actual film ain't that good. But the classics that he has left us with, like Planes, Trains and Automobiles, which is referred to in the title of the documentary, is great. And they do interview everyone. Like so many people, Dan Aykroyd, who I learned a lot of stuff as well about Second City, which is the musical. It's a comedy troupe. It's a comedy store here in Toronto called Second City, where it was improv and stand-up back in the 70s. It's still going now. It's still going to this very day. And I knew that a lot of the SNL lot came from Second City, and there was a short-lived TV show called SCTV, or Second City TV, which did sketch humour, and so it was a bit hit and miss. In the same way that Saturday Night Live or even Monty Python, it's a bit hit or miss. For every classic Monty Python sketch that we think of, there were about 10 that were shit. So but in Second City, I didn't know, but Catherine O'Hara, who plays the mum in Home Alone, which also has John Candy in it, and John Candy and John Hughes ended up working together on 9 projects of John Hughes as John Candy's in. Macaulay Culkin is interviewed in it, and he mentions the fact that he's the one who's associated with John Hughes, but actually he was only in 3 John Hughes films, Uncle Buck and the first 2 Home Alone movies. Whereas obviously John Candy was in Home Alone. He was also in Uncle Buck and a bunch of other stuff, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. But Second City was also somewhere. So I didn't know that he knew Catherine O'Hara back from his days being on the Canada stand-up comedy scene. But also Eugene Levy, the dad from American Pie, he started here as well. So he was boss mates with John Candy, and obviously Dan Aykroyd. He was very good mates with John Candy from the start. So learning about all those connections that I didn't know about was quite nice. And yeah, everyone seemed to remember him quite fondly, and at the end it did seem like he just burnt himself out. Like he was working on so many projects, and he died down in Mexico filming a film, in quite uncomfortable circumstances, filming Wagons East. And there's a theme running through the documentary about referencing the fact that his dad, John Candy's dad, died of a heart attack when he was 35. And John's brother had a heart attack very early on in his life. He was only in his 20s. And John was very much kind of like, oh God, this is going to happen to me. And when John Belushi died, that really, really affected John Candy really quite a lot. And he was like, oh God, it's starting. And this idea that, once you hit a certain age, that's it. And it did seem in the later years of his life, he was sort of aware perhaps that he was living on borrowed time. And that might have, made him do more stuff than he really should have done, without, getting exhausted. But he didn't die of a drug overdose, from what we know. He just had a heart attack in his sleep. It's really, really. It's a sad story, but there's lots of laughs in the documentary because obviously they're referencing a lot of the mad things that he did. And there's a great bit with Bill Murray where he's just like, I've got to try and find, everyone's going to be so nice about him. I've got to think of an anecdote where he was a dick, because I don't want everyone to be really nice about him. And he's like trying to think of like some way that John Candy was a bad guy, but he couldn't really think of a very good anecdote about it. I think he spent too long in the toilet once. I think that was his anecdote. This one time. So One Angry Pagan says Magneto in the House of Powers of X in the Avengers versus X-Men in Eternal Comics was magnificent. Magneto definitely a favourite of mine. Well, do you know what? Magneto's right. I'm sorry to say, but you see that in the movie Logan. Like, Magneto was right. The humans did wipe out the mutants the first chance they got. He was right. We should have t-shirts on that say Magneto was right. Of course, no one talks about genocide. They just do it. Oliver Brown says, hi, Graham and chat. Hi, Oliver Brown. How you doing this fine morning? It's morning for me. Sorry, it's 8:30 for me. Not 8:50 now. But I'm aware that it's like, what is it, 1:50 in the morning for you guys? Sorry I didn't get started at 8 o'clock. That was my initial intention, to get started at 8, but you got to get me shit together. Get all my shit, get it together, put it in a backpack, put it in a museum if you have to. Just get all your shit together. So sorry about that, but we're here now, and that's what I think matters. So let's talk about this vaccine shit. So I'll tell you what's been going on, and I know a lot of you watch my streams know my feelings on this. You know that they are quite strong. And I'll reiterate the fact that my partner, Catherine, is deaf because she got measles as a kid, because she wasn't vaccinated, because she was allergic to, she might have been allergic to one of the ingredients in the vaccine. So to err on the side of caution, she didn't get the vaccine. And as a result of that, she got the measles. And yes, the vast majority of kids who get measles do not die, or go deaf, or go blind, or lapse into a coma. But some do. Some do. And I saw an interview this last week. This Florida woman, and she was saying, they're giving out these vaccines for diseases that I've never heard of. And I'm like, there's a reason you've never heard of these diseases, love. Oh my word. Anyway, so Florida has moved to scrap all childhood vaccine mandates. This is the first in the US. I doubt it'll be the last. And DeSantis and Lapardo and the Make America Healthy Again Commission plan to end every single school vaccination for measles, polio, whooping cough, hepatitis, DTAP. And in the UK at the same time, we have this guy called Asim Malhotra claiming that the mRNA vaccines kill millions and cause cancer. Do you know what killed millions? COVID. Do you know what saved millions of lives? The COVID vaccine. We should be celebrating the scientists who worked on this. We should be putting up statues to them. We should be giving them a $200 million bloody ballroom in the side of the house. But no, we say, you didn't really help. And that's what I hate about these anti-vax bastards who have never lifted a finger in their miserable, godforsaken life to help anybody else. And they will tell you with a straight face that the scientists who work night and day on developing different COVID vaccines, there were different ones, they all worked in different ways, some were better for old people, some were better for young people, etc., right? To do that at such speed because the world was facing a pandemic. 500,000 Americans died. 230,000 Brits died of COVID. I have a friend, Bear, who went to Ukraine with me a couple of years ago. He was in a coma. He was in a coma from on a ventilator, life support machine, as a result of him contracting COVID. And to have the people who saved us from that vilified, and also there's a knock-on effect here where you've got this idea in the minds of the anti-vaxxers, or let's call them eugenicists, because that's what they are, that the good guys are the politicians, the spivs, the spin doctors, not the band, the people, and they're the good guys, right? They're the ones you can trust. Trust the politicians. Trust in these crackpots on the internet, on Fox News, on YouTube, right? Trust in them, right? Don't trust. This is what they tell you. Don't trust the doctors and healthcare professionals working for Medicine Sans Frontier, who have to fly, because there's no roads, from Kinshasa to the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and they have to drag a fridge full of vaccines through the fucking jungle for 2 days, getting eaten alive by every fucking insect out there, to get those vaccines to those children, to give them, in the minds of these conspiracy theorists, these eugenicists, to give these children mild learning difficulties. Wow. Okay. Cool. But now they've upped it. They've said that vaccines cause cancer, and this is reminiscent of Nigeria. About 20 years ago, there was a nationwide polio vaccine program, and it was scuppered because white Westerners went to Nigeria and spread a rumor that the vaccine contained HIV. So now polio, although wild polio has been eradicated, there is still polio in West Africa. And I've seen kids who clearly have been, had polio in the past, and they were kids, they were children. They were like 10, 11 years old, and they were walking on either crutches, or they were literally shuffling themselves along on their arses because the government doesn't have the resources to provide these kids with wheelchairs. And even if they did have wheelchairs, the pavements and the setup for if anyone's in a wheelchair in some of these places in West Africa, you couldn't move about, you couldn't get anywhere. So these kids whose legs aren't working are shuffling around on their arses because they've got a disease that should have been eradicated. That shouldn't be here. We shouldn't have polio. It shouldn't exist. There shouldn't be measles. It shouldn't exist. And meanwhile, these eugenicists are having they're having like measles parties where they purposely make their kids get measles because they think that's the best way to protect your kids against getting measles in the future if they don't die. Which sometimes they do, but whatever. They're eugenicists. They think that's acceptable. And stripping away vaccines means knowingly, and the rich are doing this, and they're all vaccinated. They are all vaccinated. The rich are vaccinated. They always are. That there was that horrible woman. Was it Katie Hazy, whatever her name is, went to Australia to tell people not to get vaccinated against COVID, but she couldn't have got into Australia if she wasn't vaccinated against COVID. So it was all right for her. RFK Jr. in America, it sounds like a diseased corpse brought back to life somehow by a witch doctor. He's saying, he vaccinated his children, but you wish he hadn't. What, did they fucking die? Are they deaf? Are they blind? Were they in a coma for several weeks? Were they? No. He wishes he hadn't given them vaccines because whatever. Meanwhile, the same people are absolutely gung-ho for plastics and pollution and filthy foreign slime, oil. They're gung-ho for methane gas, for lead in everything, for the traffic to be backed up on every street corner, pumping out toxic fumes at the back of each car. That's the future they want. So they want us breathing in poison air, drinking poison water, and yet they go, oh no, we don't get vaccines though. Don't tell me this isn't eugenics, sorry. Don't tell me this isn't eugenics, because it absolutely was. By 1980, smallpox had been eradicated. The only human disease ever wiped out from the face of the earth. I think there's a few samples left in a laboratory in the former Soviet Union and in America, but that's about it. But taking away these vaccines, it means knowingly letting poor, vulnerable, disabled and minority kids suffer and die from preventable diseases. Polio has been reduced by 99% worldwide, but outbreaks still pop up when vaccination collapses. Measles, pre-vaccine, it caused 2.6 million deaths annually. By 2016, that had been reduced to 89,000. But now it's resurging thanks to the millionaires and the billionaires, eugenicists and their stupid, idiotic, moronic, slack-jawed followers who value the word of a con man over the lives of their own children. You've got to be pretty thick. You've got to be a whole level of thing. You've got to be so dense that you literally bend light in order to go down that route. And I've got no sympathy for them. And I'm sick of hearing their shit on the internet. I'm sick of seeing pro-disease, pro-virus, pro-death, pro-childhood illnesses propaganda on the internet. You know, if the viruses themselves could tweet, this is what they would say. Yeah, don't get vaccinated. Love kids getting viruses and dying before the age of 5. Vaccines also prevent blindness, deafness, brain damage. Complications from meningitis, from measles, from rubella can lead to all these things, as I know from my experience in my life and the people who I know and love. And each generation that has lived without these diseases owe that to health vaccination or mass vaccination. And this anti-vax crusade in Florida, this is Joseph Ladapo. Let's call him Lapardo. Let's say Lapardo, I like that. Joseph Lapardo, he's the Florida Surgeon General. Like, I think he's just some guy off the TV. He called vaccine mandates immoral and compared them, this is a black guy, okay? Brace yourselves for a moment. Finishing my coffee. There we go. To slavery. He compared vaccine mandates to slavery. I just can't. Maybe the next war shouldn't be between nation states or religions or haves and have-nots. How about the next war is the clever people versus the stupid people? How about that for a bit of eugenics? How about that for improving the gene pool? Let's get rid of the dickheads. Come on, you know you want to. And do you know what? Just between you and me, and everyone watching this in the future, if this just wiped out the anti-vaxxers, their hatred of vaccinations, if it just wiped out the eugenicists and the morons, I don't know if I'd be so upset, but it doesn't. It upsets. It kills the children of these people. It's not them. They're not going to die. They got vaccinated. It's their children, innocent kids. I'm not having that. I'm just not having that. You know what they're doing is demonic. They should be put in jail for it. And it's eugenics. And DeSantis framing this as Ron DeSantis framing this as parental rights, but really it's just political theatre for MAGA populism. And there will be outbreaks of measles and polio and pertussis. I don't know how to pronounce that. And insurance coverage may collapse because mandates often drive universal provision. So poorer people who can't afford the insurance, not the rich billionaires on the MAGA platforms. I'm talking about everybody else, not the American royalty of the Kennedy family. Not them, they'll be all right, but everybody else won't be able to get insurance anymore. So when your kid gets ill and goes into a coma because they got measles, who's going to pay the bill? Who's going to pay the bill for that child to, not die? Because the way things are going, it's not going to be paid for by Medicaid or Medicare. I'm just saying, children in poorer families will be hit the hardest. End of. Again, eugenics. This is rich people killing poor people. That's what it is. That's every time you see an anti-vaxxer spouting shit, have a look at what they've got in the bank balance. Okay? Or, make an educated guess. Have a look at their house. Have a look at the mansion they live in. And spreading disinformation about medicine is deadly. Absolutely deadly. John C., thank you very much for the £10 super chat, the first super chat of the week. That is very exciting. Thank you, sir. You are a legend. John C., thank you. I'll give you a little... Where's my little super chat animation? There it is. Yay, super chat. The problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubt, while stupid people are full of confidence. Charles Bukowski. Yeah. I can't agree more. It really is. Caranola, John Candy in the in the movie Cool Runnings, excellent. I gave that one 10 out of 10 stars. He was fantastic. Okay, what did I miss? Post office collection hours 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. What the fuck? I have to go back in the morning. I'm sorry about that, Martin. That's ridiculous. Ernie Burns, and we addressed the ozone layer, yet it's taken for granted because it doesn't suit people's preferred narrative and interest. Yeah, two examples, right? Well, no, actually 3 examples, right? We got rid of smallpox in the 1970s. Absolutely eradicated it from the face of the earth. That was done by scientists, by clever people, by vaccine drives all over the world. We managed to do it, led by the WHO. We managed to do it. We got rid of smallpox, which killed millions of people every year all over the world. And then in the 1980s, the hole in the ozone layer. We saw there was a hole in the ozone layer, and the British government at the time, led by Margaret Thatcher, who I have no love for, but at least she could read a scientific paper, went, oh shit, we need to stop using CFCs. So they took the CFCs out of aerosol cans, they took it out of refrigerators and used different gases instead. And the hole in the ozone layer, it's not gone, but it's, the thinning out is repairing itself over, it's going to take a few more decades before it actually is fully healed, but at least it's getting there, right? And then the Y2K bug. It was a bug. It was a genuine bug that affected computers all over the world and would have messed things up for a lot of people. And yet it didn't, because scientists went, oh shit, we've got a problem here. And they updated as many systems as they could because they knew what was coming. And so because it's like, if there is a terrorist attack and it's successful, right? That's obviously big news. But if MI6 defeat a terrorist atrocity before it happens, we don't even hear about it. Like, nobody knows. And it's the same sort of thing with what we're dealing with now. Most people who are, roaming around on this planet at the moment have no experience of smallpox. They don't know what it is. They've never seen it. They've never had their younger brother, sister die of it. It's a horrific disease, because it's not just that it kills, which is horrific, but also it covers people's entire bodies in these pustules, in these spots, and it's just a horrific virus, a horrific disease. So yeah, it's just one pagan. Now, ideology is hardly an evolutionary successful one. It can only last so long. The main conversation to me is about how much damage they've done in the meantime. Yeah. Samusu says, how lucky to catch you live, Politics Social. I guess it's still 9 a.m. ish where you are. Yes, it is. It's 9:07 Eastern time. Nuns says the Dunning-Kruger effect is real and frustrating. It absolutely is. And I love that film about Bukowski with Matt Dillon. I've not seen that. It sounds like it should be a good one. But I've not seen it. Anyway, so let's talk about Florida's anti-vax crusade. This is just, imagine having a black Surgeon General compare vaccine mandates, which save children's lives, to slavery, in which millions of Africans died, half of them died on the fucking passage over, never mind working in these fields, working in these plantations. And they had children, their children would be taken as slaves as well. There was no escape. Wow. I guess, the Florida will be, become a laboratory of eugenics by neglect. And I don't see much difference from the whole thing about the Spartans, looking at a baby and going, this baby doesn't look strong enough, and throwing the baby off a cliff or whatever they did. I don't see that much difference between what they did and what the anti-vaxxers are doing now. It's the same result, isn't it? Same result. Dead children. RFK is just he's at the head of all this. He's there. There's a collapse of US vaccine policy, and he was in front of Congress last week, being absolutely grilled. But it's just words. It's his actions that are going to cause all the grief. RFK Jr. He's openly hostile to vaccines. He's fired the CDC director, Susan Maranes. Monarez, sorry, just after a month because she wouldn't rubber stamp changes to the vaccine schedule. He purged the advisory committee on immunization practices and replaced them with conspiracy theorists. The CDC, once the gold standard globally in public health, is now gutted and discredited and politicized. And the US is currently having, no surprise here, its worst measles outbreak for 25 years, for a quarter of a century. There's 1,431 cases and counting, and there are 3 dead children already. 3 dead already. Little coffins. You know, coffin makers, they sort of pre-make some coffins because people are generally the same height, you know. They just put a bit of padding in. But when a kid dies, they've got to make a special one. Yeah. Pulling US funding from Gavi, the Global Vaccine Alliance, undermines immunization for 70 million kids worldwide. They've pulled funding from it, in the same way they pulled funding from USAID. And then in the UK, over here, don't think we're immune from this bullshit. You know, we need vaccination from this bullshit, but we're not. We're not vaccinated because the media and the political class, and you know what I'm going to say, like everyone you see on TV, everyone you hear on the radio, everyone you see on stage, everyone you see in the public eye, unless they've committed a crime, it all went to school together. They all went to, it's just an old boys club. And some old girls as well, but, you know. Wow. And so we've got the anti-vax bug. We've got it as well. We had Asim Malhotra at the Reform Conference claiming that the mRNA vaccine killed millions. He linked them to cancer in King Charles and Princess Catherine. He called drug companies psychopathic, and the World Health Organization captured by Bill Gates, because Bill Gates has a massive malaria, the malaria crusade to end malaria. Put it that way. He has his crusade to end malaria, which some cynical people have pointed out could be a big tax dodge at the end of the day. But, you know, if it's saving lives, it's saving lives. But it's not like he controls the WHO, because he absolutely doesn't. And Malhotra has close ties to RFK Jr. and the whole US anti-vax network. Reform UK's free speech excuse, giving, you know, free speech. This isn't some kid on the internet making a YouTube video. This is a platform, you know, at a conference. And they said, oh, we're not endorsing his belief. But they're giving him oxygen. And the result is more doubt, more mistrust, lower vaccine rates, and more children dying, or going deaf, or going blind, or having brain damage and having to be looked after for the rest of their lives. And they say, oh, it's the big pharmaceutical companies. Like, look, here, dickheads. Like, listen to me. Not you. You're not a dickhead, but, you know, the dickheads who believe this anti-vax nonsense, right? Just explain to me how it is more profitable for a pharmaceutical company to make vaccines that stop kids getting childhood diseases than it is allowing the kids to get childhood diseases, and then their parents, the health providers, the NHS, whoever, spending literally millions of pounds or dollars, or, you know, whatever currency you like, Angolan kwanza, on keeping that kid alive. And then if that kid has a chronic problem, perhaps deafness, the amount of money they will make over that child's lifetime from that person who will constantly need medication or medical devices for the rest of their lives. What are you going to make money on? The pennies spent on vaccines, or the millions that you will make from one ill child? Because people will spend anything it takes to keep their child alive, quite rightly. So just do the maths there. You know, let's say there's 10 children, $1 million each. Say there's 100. Say there's, 1,431 times by 1 million. Yeah, you tell me where they're going to make the money there. You tell me, right? So yeah, you think about that. You think about that for a moment, right? Let's say for each kid whose lives are saved by modern medicine, it costs $1 million, and there's 1,000 of them. How much is that? That's $1 billion. That's $1 billion. Just, yeah. So yeah, UK's vaccination rate is already going down, and measles, pertussis, and polio at risk of coming back. And going back to my original statement, and something I'm going to bang the drum on forever on this, is anti-vax is eugenics. Herd immunity relies on high coverage. 95% of the kids being vaccinated stops the virus from spreading, because if someone's vaccinated, they can't spread the virus to somebody else. When you cut it, the weaker suffer first. Disabled children, immunocompromised kids, poor communities, they pay the price, not the rich. Not the rich. The rich do not pay the price of this. The anti-vax medical freedom is your kid's right to spread deadly disease to mine. Eugenics doesn't always look like forced sterilisation. It's sometimes state-enabled neglect of basic health provisions for everyone who's not filthy rich, for everyone who wasn't born a fucking oligarch. And the rhetoric of natural immunity is a special code, and I want you to think this: when someone says natural immunity, it is a code which means let the weak die. And the people who push this bullshit are vicious, deadly killers. They just are. They're not just misguided, right? Someone who thinks the world is flat, they're misguided. Anti-vaxxers are actively murdering children in the most horrific way possible. You're effectively murdering them rather than just, shooting them with a gun like they do, like doing in America. That's a big pastime over there. But it's like killing a kid with poison. So the kid's in loads of fucking pain before they die. A slow-acting poison. So the last few weeks of their life, the last few weeks of their short life is spent crippled in pain in a hospital on a drip, fighting to stay alive against a disease that has developed over millions of years to kill, and kill again, because that's what viruses do. It's an endless arms race between animals, viruses, predators, prey, trees, and things that are eaten and things that eat. Constant fucking arms race, and we were winning. We were absolutely hands down winning this arms race. And there were millions of kids who grew up to be healthy adults, who were getting on with their lives, who were helping out around the world, who were doing good things, or looking after their families, helping out in their communities, being good people, who would not be here if we still had the same disease rates and death rates that we had in the Victorian era, when half of all births resulted in either the death of the baby or the death of the mother. Half. And they want to go back to these days. Let the weak die. Let the weak die. That's their message. That is their message. And vaccine confidence worldwide is collapsing due to US disinformation. They're doing this on purpose, because when I say, let the weak die, this is their message, right? They know that the rich people in the rich countries will vaccinate their kids anyway. They can afford to get the vaccinations. They will do that. Whereas poor families might not be able to afford it, and they'll also be brought in by this toxic rhetoric. But then you've got the knock-on effects in developing countries, developing nations, where parents can be quite fearful, understandably, of white people from Europe or America or Canada coming over and sticking a needle in their baby's arm. I can understand why there is fear in some of those places because of that. And so social media studies have shown that RFK Jr. is responsible for nearly 13% of all anti-vax misinformation retweets globally. Think about how that's landing in West Africa. Think about how that's landing in Southeast Asia. And other countries are stepping in to sort of counteract the Trump-Kennedy policy, but the damage is spreading. The Gavi, I've mentioned, the funding was cut, and the World Health Organization has been sidelined. I think the America's pulled out the World Health Organization. The US is clearly retreating from global health leadership, and this is the grim irony of this is that the US once led the fight against smallpox. Once led the fight against polio and Ebola and now this same country is now the source of the most vaccine misinformation in the world. And this argument that parents should decide, no, fuck off. What, you're a parent, you got a crotch goblin, you got a sex trophy, well done, slow hand clap, well done for breeding. It's not like anyone else has ever done that. Oh yeah, hang on. Yeah, obviously 8 billion people have, because there's 8 billion people on the fucking planet at the moment. But you don't need any qualifications to become a fucking parent, right? It doesn't bestow on you the wisdom of fucking Yoda or Confucius just because you've had a fucking sex trophy twat itself out of you. You look at like being a politician or a prostitute, no job skills required, no CV required. Just turn up, do the job, it's fine. No training required for that job. Parents should decide. Fuck off. No, parents shouldn't decide. Parents should do what they're fucking told to protect the lives of their own children and the children in their area and the children in around the world. As far as I'm concerned, because public health isn't personal, it is public, okay? This is a public health crisis. Do you know what? If that parent gets cancer themselves and they decide not to get any treatment, to stick coffee up their arse or some fucking daft thing, or drink ivermectin and it kills them, that's their choice. That is their choice. Those parents decide to do that, but they can't do that for their kids. If their kid gets cancer, no parent should be allowed to say, no treatment for my child. No, because this isn't about them and their attitude. This is about the children. And in the case of vaccines, it's about public health. Public health. One infected child can start an epidemic. And then thousands of children can die from that one kid who was not vaccinated by their fucking twatty parents. Because, oh, I'm a parent, I know everything, look at me. I had sex once. Fucking arseholes. Anyway, Alistair, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. As I have kids and see this as a backward step, so sorry for the kids' parents in the USA right now, but so fucking angry. Yeah, I'm like you, mate. I'm absolutely fucking pissed about this. It is a disgrace on every level. Thank you very much for the super chat. That's very kind of you. But yeah, parents should decide. This idea that vaccines aren't 100% safe. Do you know what's not safe? Puncturing your kid's arm 4 times. So wrap up all those, get the MMR plus chickenpox vaccination, just one jab. There you go. Because the bigger danger with getting injected with a vaccine is actually the puncturing of the skin with the needle, which you'll need a lot more of if you're in a fucking coma. Yeah. Then they're going to be puncturing your skin with needles to put your fucking IV drip in, because you won't be able to fucking eat because you'll be in a fucking coma. But nothing is 100% safe, right? But vaccines, the risk of some kind of vaccine injury is vanishingly small compared with the disease. You look at the death rates of kids who have been vaccinated against measles, it is minimal. Whereas the vaccine, the death rate of kids with measles is disturbingly high. 3 children have already died in America, and more will. And this idea that it's just profiting big pharma, pharmaceutical industry. I'm like, but it makes more sense for them from a Machiavellian point of view to do fuck all and let the kids fucking get ill, because then more money will be spent trying to cure the kids from their illness. Clearly, obviously, even a handful of children getting ill will yield more profit than vaccinating an entire state of children. A state worth of children. But yeah, freedom. Freedom doesn't mean the right to kill others through your negligence. That is it. Freedom doesn't mean you're allowed to cut the fucking brake lines in a car, or make an elevator fucking crash to the floor. It doesn't mean that you are okay to build an unsafe building that then collapses, trapping and killing hundreds of people inside. It doesn't mean that you're allowed to go around setting fires and causing arson, causing people to die. That's not freedom, you know? Your freedom to throw a punch ends where my nose begins. And these anti-vaxxers don't seem to realise that. They think it's okay to kill people, not just people, but children, through their ignorance, through their self-belief that they know more than every other paediatrician in the fucking world. And you see this handful of doctors who claim that vaccines are a problem, right? And every one of them is a multi-millionaire. Every one of them swims in a fucking gold-plated swimming pool. They probably just do loads of cocaine every night with their disgusting people, careless people that they hang out with. These are not good people, you know. They're not fighting for the best for society and the best for our children. And then we've got historical parallels with the 19th century anti-vaccination leagues in Britain against smallpox jabs led to outbreaks. Nazi Germany, you think about racial hygiene and they mocked vaccination. And today's anti-vaxxers echo both of those. Pseudoscience plus eugenic ideology wrapped in populism. This is a cycle. The populists, they exploit fear, mistrust and conspiracy to dismantle life-saving protections. Look, anti-vax rhetoric kills, not just metaphorically, but literally. It kills, and it kills children. Every debate they force is another wedge in undermining trust in science and public health. And this is, for me, and I don't really care how other people, feel when I say this, but I see it as a eugenics project in disguise. It's just eugenics. It's the rich killing the poor. That is it. If you fall for it, you're joining in with the rich to literally kill your own. When I say the poor, I just mean they're not rich. They're not filthy fucking rich. We need to make it so that this misinformation isn't getting out there. And you know what? The social media platforms back in 2020 during COVID, they clamped down on anti-vax propaganda. Quite rightly, but now it's a free for all. It's an absolute free for all. It is just horrific. This whole situation. Simply, Secretary Dave, I'm on more jabs in my life from donating blood than I've had from vaccinations. Yep. Well, just on a personal note, before I went travelling, I got vaccinated against Japanese encephalitis, yellow fever, hepatitis A, hepatitis B. Rabies, typhoid, diphtheria. Yeah, I jab for the few months before I went traveling. I got well over a dozen jabs. Some of them you get like 3, you get 1, and then a week later you go back for another one, and then a month later you go back for the 3rd. And I was fully vaxxed up, and I travelled around sub-Saharan Africa for months and months on end, travelling on public transport, eating fly-covered fucking bread from the side of the road, just dodgy mystery meat, didn't even know what it was. I slept on the floor in people's homes, in jail, in holding cells. I travelled on transport, like boats that literally had livestock next to where we were sleeping. Livestock, I'm not even kidding. There was a section where there was cows, and then we were sleeping on the deck, on the sort of, when you're on a boat, when it's not been cleaned, and you get that sort of slimy feel from the salt water that's dried, and then you just have this sort of slimy film on it, so the whole ground, yeah. And I didn't get ill. How's that for a fucking anecdote? How's that for some anecdotal data, right? Didn't get ill. 4 years, explain that one to me, go on. Either the fucking vaccinations worked, and therefore I didn't get dengue fever, I didn't get fucking diphtheria, I didn't get typhoid, I didn't get hepatitis A or B, or I'm just very, very lucky. Maybe I'm just dead lucky. Maybe I'm just the luckiest badger that's ever badgered. But yeah, And he says, freedom means you are responsible for your actions. It's a price of freedom. Otherwise, you must give you must give away freedom to not be held responsible. Indeed. I took 3 COVID vaccines, both Pfizer and Moderna. I said no to 4 and 5. I never got COVID, but there's always a first time. I'll ask my doctor about what to do against this latest COVID morph. Yeah, you don't want COVID. I've got friends who have got long COVID still to this day, and it still affects them in their daily lives. Which isn't fun. And I've got about 10 minutes left. Clarkson's a big farmer, says Nick. Hey, I'm going to head over to the papers now. We've got the Daily Express here. 1,097 arrivals in boats on new Home Secretary's first day. Encouraged by Nigel Farage, who's over here. There's Nigel Farage there, being an absolute shitbag. How much tax do you pay, Nigel? Hey? Backlash after super rich reform leader refuses to publish his returns. Funny that, isn't it? He actually gets it paid into that little creep. What's his name? Farage. He actually gets money. His GB News money gets paid into an offshore account, an offshore business, a business that's not registered in the UK. So he pays 25% tax instead of 40% tax on that income. Anyway, 4 dead as Ukraine reels from biggest Russian drone and missile strikes of the war. This is drone and missile attacks that actually hit the capital, Kyiv, and they actually hit a government building. They're really going for civilians now in Ukraine. The Russians are going for civilians because the Russians, the former Soviet Union, is run by a bunch of fucking creeps. Labour now steps up its war on small boat crossings. Okay. And then Daily Mail. I earn 4 times what my husband makes. It's killed our sex life, and now we're on the brink of divorce. Another fun story there from the Daily Mail. And then we've got 30,000 reasons why Labour won't stop the boats. I thought it was 1,097, but now it's 30,000. Okay. Stop making mistakes. Starmer warned by senior Labour figures. I'm not a senior Labour figure, but I agree with this message. And Toronto Film Festival, the premiere of Hamnet. There's actually Hamlet. There's an adaptation of the movie Hamlet, and this is an adaptation of a book called Hamnet. Now, Shakespeare, I think, had a kid called Hamlet, didn't he? So I don't know what happens, but I'm actually going to see Hamnet this week. So I'll report back and let you know how Hamnet, not Hamlet, is, but there's the red carpet where I was yesterday. Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley rock the red carpet. Yesterday I saw Anna Taylor-Joy. And the movie I saw last night with Sir Ian McKellen and Michaela Cole. Michaela Cole was there. Ian McKellen did a video saying he couldn't make it, unfortunately. Also. The woman from Baby Reindeer, the woman who played Martha in Baby Reindeer, she was there. She was very funny. And the director, Steven Soderbergh, and the writer was also being interviewed at the end of it, at the end of the thing. So I saw them. I saw the woman from Baby Reindeer going into the hotel earlier in the day. And but Anna Taylor-Joy, she's quite a striking looking woman. She is a very striking looking woman in a way that Sydney Sweeney, who I saw the day before, I'm like, she just looks like everyone else. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing striking about her. But Michaela Cole, oh my God, what a striking looking woman. What an incredible looking woman Michaela Cole is. She is just, wow. She looks like a sculpture. She looks like a fucking sculpture. You're like, wow. She was phenomenal in the movie The Christophers. And thankfully, James Corden wasn't here. So that was good, because that was always a worry. Anyway, so that's the Hamlet premiere there on the front cover of The Guardian. And then here with the Daily Tory graph, we have, for some reason, we have... Joanna Lumley there, Tweedy darling, I don't really understand. We've got Trump's crypto war on banks, because obviously banks have regulations and he doesn't want regulations, he just wants it all to be a big free-for-all, so obviously it's in his interest to not allow people to, check on what he's doing with all his ill-gotten gains. He's going to be a trillionaire by the end. They were talking about fucking Elon Musk being the world's first trillionaire. I bet it's Trump. He's stealing so much money from the American people and the world economy at the moment. It is just painful because he can get away with it and no one's stopping him. And then, unions threaten PM over Rayner law. This is about barons will fight every inch to safeguard workers' rights reforms, Starmer warned. So there you go. So Keir Starmer has been put on notice by Labour's union backers that he must not water down the workers' rights bill after Angela Rayner's resignation. Fair enough. I don't understand what barons means. Why have they used the word barons here? Barons? What the fuck? Barons? Who's a baron? What, a union baron? No, drug dealers maybe, or maybe like, I don't know, Russian oligarchs. You call them barons if you like. Prostate charities forced into DIY tests after the NHS falls short. PM to task Blairites in new cabinet with growth on the Times there. Lazy Gen Z, I work 18 hours a day. Yeah, I mean, Gen Z are not lazy. No generation is. There's a famous quote from a Greek philosopher where he's complaining about the youth of today, that they don't have any manners, they put the feet up at the table, they never say please or thank you, and it's like, it was written like 3,000 years ago or something mad. Storm Amy to batter Britain. So another storm. First of 3 barrages will bring 65-mile-an-hour gales and torrential rain because of climate change. Migrant hotel closures to be fast-tracked as Labour faces, Starmer faces Labour unrest, which is fair enough, what's going on. Gotta say, Tories set up a trap. They set a trap for Labour. When they got in power, they gave them a big shit sandwich and said, it's a shit sandwich. And Labour just walked straight into the trap. Dickheads. They shouldn't have done that. And then next up, we've got the Financial Times. Russian energy giants turn to China for fundraising as economic ties grow. And we've also got unions warn against diluting workers' rights legislation that Rayner championed. Obviously, that's something that we care about as well on this channel. And then Asylum, it's back to square one. This is about Labour putting migrants in military bases, which kind of makes more sense because they're a bit more secure than a hotel. And also, it means that this is MOD land. So it's ours. It's not going to some random billionaire friend of the Tories, which is the way that the system used to work, where a random billionaire mate of the Tories would buy a bunch of hotels and then they'll do a deal with the Tories to put asylum seekers in these hotels. Was that Socrates, Graham? Asks Oliver. I'm not sure. It might have been. Thunder, I hate thunder. I may lose things. Oh, you having thunder where you are? Ooh, that's exciting. I sacrificed my life to install internet for people during lockdown, most likely so they could rub one out. You're welcome, world. Such a trip. Oh, well, I thank you. Somehow I've managed to dodge SARS-CoV-2. I would have dodged it. I would have completely dodged it. My partner never got it, and I would have dodged it myself had I not had to go home 5 years ago to help look after my dad after he was admitted to hospital. And when he came out, when the carers came, none of them had masks. The ones who did have masks had to buy their own masks, and they were going door to door to vulnerable person, the health carers. And they weren't given routine COVID tests. Because the company that they worked for, a private company that, makes loads of money, some fucking shareholder on the other side of the planet's making loads of money out of the care that we're giving our elderly in our country. And they had to keep costs down, you see. So they get people from other countries to come because they can not necessarily pay them less, but there's no chance of them joining a union or trying to fight for more workers' rights in that respect. And also not giving them the medical protection that they should have been given. They should have been given that. I mean, not just for the elderly people that they were visiting, but for the for themselves. For lots of people in their 40s and 50s died from COVID. Breezy here in Hertfordshire. Elle says, trains shouting, planes, thunder, fireworks too loud. I tense up. I'm on a hill and it's right over me again. Elle, in that case, my advice, which you don't have to take, but it works for me, is put some music on. I was thinking that about when dogs are freaking out about fireworks. If you put some music on, they usually can't hear it. Although dogs do have very good hearing, to be fair. But Elle says, Pagan, have you got thunder? I don't handle loud music well, which is understandable. And Carreno says, good headline, almost Barack Obama, just get square one. Yeah, we'll love a good pun. Anyway, I'm coming up to 1 hour of being online, so I'm going to bugger off now. And I was hoping to do a episode of Stateside this evening for you, my favourites, but I'm actually going to be watching some movies here at the TIFF International Film Festival. I did want to do a few more things where I was reporting down on the ground when the road was closed, but I found that my signal, because there were so many people, when you have loads of people together in like a stadium or a festival or something, and you lose signal because there's too many people using the one mobile phone mast in the vicinity. I had that problem here, so I was trying to even like sending a text message through WhatsApp was taking like half an hour, so I was like, there's no chance of me being able to do a stream. However, today, the roads reopened, there's fewer people out and about, so hopefully I will be able to do a few more mad little live streams, just like 5-minute things where I tell you what I'm up to, what I'm going to see, and the fun that I'm having here in Canada at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is it's been fun. And I'm seeing a film every day. Today I'm seeing 2 films, which should be cool. But also being able to watch these movies and then have those Q&As afterwards with the director and the writers and the stars, where they talk about their experiences of making the movie and being able to field questions to them. So there you go. Before I go, I will recommend The Christophers if you like a nice sort of comedy drama centered around 2 unlikely people being forced together by circumstance. It's about an old artist played by Sir Ian McKellen, who his children, he's given away all his paintings. His children aren't going to inherit anything. He's got a series of paintings that he abandoned in the 90s, and Michaela Cole is hired as an art forger to forge the rest of these paintings and finish off the series so the kids can sell them once their father passes away. And obviously, the things happen. Not that a little bit. The plan goes a little awry. Let's put it that way. But Sir Ian McKellen is fucking fantastic in it, and he's dead funny, and he just plays this bitter, grumpy old artist who just doesn't. He's a proper misanthrope. So it's an old case of the Grinch. He's a Grinch, but then it turns out he had a heart of gold all along. So thanks so much for watching. Have a great time. You're here in Canada at the TIFF on the West Coast. I'm at TIFF. I'm in Toronto, Simply Secular Dave. Enjoy Graham. I'm lucky enough to attend the premiere of Triumph of the Heart in Warsaw the other week. It's premiering in Dallas today. Oh, that's cool. One Angry Pagan, I have problems with high-pitched sounds rather than volume, but I do have issues with loud noises too. Pneumatic drills, loud traffic, etc. Yeah, me too. One Angry Pagan, it puts me on edge. I hate the sound of construction. I hate the sound of traffic, to be honest with you. I mean, one of the things you say about electric cars, they still take up space, and they still cars in the city centre, which I disagree with, but at least they're not fucking noisy. Like when some dickhead's got his car souped up so it makes like loads of noise. Vroom vroom! Everyone, look at me, I'm a very special boy. Really sets me on edge. And thank you very much. Thank you. Cavanola says, great show, Graham, as always, man. Enjoy Canada. Thank you so much. So yeah, I'll be back tomorrow morning. I'm going to try and make it it'll be 1 o'clock for you in the afternoon. It might be 1:30 before I can get started, so we will see. But until then, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. If you would like to give us a like on the way out, that would be absolutely awesome. You can also subscribe to the channel as well. It doesn't cost anything, and that helps out with the algorithm as well. Okay, so in the meantime, I'll say thank you so much for watching, and until we meet again, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.